and Tommy, and you are on the boat. So I haven't seen all of you in a long time. It's really good to have you here. Barbara Aldrich, what's happening? Mike Bragg, Jane Aldrich, Kristen Melinda, Mom, Carolina, Canada, glad you made it. Brock Bandy. Barbara's here. Honey, what's happening? Barbara, I'm glad you're here. Just Joan, good to see you. John McCarty, what's up, John? Welcome. Murph, boy, it's Jeremy Fowler. It's got the whole damn crew. And from Mass, and the Johnny Scoville. He's been doing me dirty for the last 45 minutes on his channel. I won't do that to him this time. Yeah, but that wasn't right either. So you just, you lead people to believe stuff. Lisa Trimble, good to see you. Guru from Canada. Tommy Bird, I'm praying for you, man. Hope you're having a good day, man. A lot of people sent me emails saying they were praying for you. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, people, here's the deal. Do you know what one of the most, the biggest trending things going on anywhere is, Johnny Scoville? No, I'll tell you. Queen Quiche, good to see you. Because I find this hysterical. What is trending because of TMZ and a story that they told, apparently Diddy's getting out. It's going to be either this Friday or the next Friday. You buy that? Little critical thinking. Do you buy that? Honestly. But they say they got a source. I'll tell you what my theory is. It's a test balloon. One of the attorneys for Diddy is a cat named Mark Garagos. And Mark Garagos is a badass attorney. Like, he really is good at it. Pepperhead, good to see you. Trump, he just denied it. Yeah, I bet he did, because Trump never said it. This is my humble opinion, people. I have nothing to back this up except pure logic, right? If Mark Garagos, part of Diddy's legal team, also works with the guys at TMZ, and he does shows over there, all kinds of stuff, right? So he knows Harvey Levin real well. If you just organize that leak, right? If you just organize that leak, this actually pays off. Sorry, it was family. If you leak this to TMZ, you get to judge how angry the public is going to get at it. And this is the kind of thing that lawyers like to do if they play in an arena big enough where they can do things like this. Because if nobody said squat, right? If everybody in the country just went, nah, who cares, right? That he's going to get let out. Hold on one second, because this is family. Hey, I love you, man. I'm live right now, and I will reach out to you the second that I'm done. All right, meet? All right. Sorry, it's family. So it makes a lot of sense if you're an attorney to be able to put this out to judge what everybody across the country is going to say about it. I think you have to be really a bit of a dolt to not know exactly what the country's going to say about it. It's also going to get a lot of traction for TMZ. People are going to watch it. I think it's disingenuous as hell to put this out. They said that, of course, anytime something like this leaks, it's an anonymous source, right? And the anonymous source, well, if it's anonymous, we're never going to know who it is. It's easy for these stories to kind of appear. Hi, Susie, right? These stories just appear. However, at the same time, there was a story written in the British paper, the tabloid, The Mirror. And they said that they got somebody inside the White House that laughed about this. That it was just absolutely ridiculous. This is not true. Kathy, good to have you here. And I don't believe there's a shred of truth to this. I do think, however, though, that this was trying to do one of these numbers and hear how angry people were going to get. I'm blown away at the number of people that run with this. Now, I know that it's a hell of a thumbnail if you say, and you put a shocked face, the ones that really get people's attention. You put your shocked face next to Diddy gets out next Friday, and it's going to bring a lot of people in. And then they're going to quote what TMZ said. It makes zero sense politically if it were anything else, right? But this is, by most people's opinions now, a sex case. If you're paying somebody, this is great. This is great. You seem to be the only YouTube channel that sticks up for Diddy. Do you have a personal connection with him or his family? I've never met Sean Combs, and I have never met his family. Guys, since you guys watch a lot of what I do here, do you think I stick up for Diddy? Have you ever watched any of my videos? I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but go watch my videos. There's never a day that I don't call this guy a filthy rapist. However, I no longer put out disinformation. This guy ain't getting out, right? I can make money by saying it is comical. I mean, The most money that I made on YouTube ever was trashing Diddy for what, 6 or 7 months nonstop, almost every video. I was probably the biggest Diddy hater on planet Earth. Went on a lot of channels to talk about how bad the guy was. But so much of what has come out is BS. The 77 cases that are moving forward and just the video of him beating on Cassie Ventura is enough to put this dude in prison forever as far as I am concerned. Jackie, welcome. You're new here. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, old man on the hill. If what I am doing is coming across as defending Diddy, here's what I say, and I will continue to say it. Just because the guy's a scumbag and a rapist, you can't take every single thing that you want to say about him and just go, yep, we'll just add that to the tab. Because the truth matters. And this became an epidemic. There were people talking about him sacrificing children in his tunnels. Okay, that's kind of whacked, right? And that's an accusation to put on somebody that doesn't deserve to stick to them if you can't back it up. And I got wrapped up in it. A lot of people got wrapped up on it. So as this is coming back out, I just don't bring stuff here that I can't prove. But I don't think there's a chance in hell he's getting out. He's one of the biggest lowlifes that ever walked the planet. And it would be political suicide for anyone to pardon him. Yeah, Kathy, probably. I would like to believe that, well, we're happy to have you, Jacqueline. I would like to believe that this is probably more accurate, right? I'm trying to identify what's legit and what's not. There's a lot of stuff that gets put out about this guy that, like today, the number of people that are going, I told you, right? They're putting videos up. How long did I tell you? Trump's going to pardon this guy. There's nobody at the White House talking about pardoning this guy. Let me seriously think about this. People go, well, he's pardoned all kinds of, he's not pardoned people that are sex offenders. He's not pardoned people that beat the crap out of a woman and the entire world saw it. You know how many times that thing's been viewed? Nobody in America would put up with it. They would go completely bat crap crazy. Now, president can do it, right? It would destroy his political party. For the next 5 elections, they would be running commercials going, this is the man. This is the party that let Diddy out. Yeah. What's the guy's name? Willie Schumann? Willie Schumann or Willie Shoemaker? Somebody look that up for me. This was during, this was in the East Coast when Walter Mondale was running for president. And there had been a pardon that allowed a rapist to get out of jail. And then he raped somebody. And it is political suicide to do that stuff. So I'm not really looking at, if I had to put cash on it, like if I could get out to William Hill's sports book and catch a line on this, I figure the odds on that are probably 300 or 400 to 1. You know, the only way that could happen is if the general public wanted him out enough, a president might bow to that. The general public doesn't want Diddy out, right? In any level. By the way, people love to say that they're best of friends. You should probably go look up a clip of film of Sean Combs right before Willie Shoemaker. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. Right before the last election, when Trump was running the first time, people interviewed them, right? Guru, you might be right. I think that's far more likely than he's getting out on Friday. And I don't necessarily mean he's going to get whacked in there, although it's a real possibility for people with messed up charges. But more likely, they're going to come up with some stuff to try to charge this cat with. I agree your reasoning and rationale for why he will not be released. Not to mention the guy needs to do his time. Correct. And all of the people who have family that have done time for anything start going, so the rich just don't do time. But in the first election, when Donald Trump was running for president, Diddy came out and said, yeah, we're friends. We get along, you know, we'll see what happens, blah, blah, blah. By the second election, he was talking about how this man has got to be out of office. He's evil. You can go look at the clips. That's normally not the people that are going to get pardoned. Trump has not ruled out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. He has said he is allowed to give her a pardon, but has not been approached with such a request. What's up with Trump? Well, he hasn't pardoned her. And almost all presidents respond with, I can pardon anybody. It's not an unusual thing. And I'll be really honest, everything about, and I'm not defending Trump, by the way, I'm just saying that it's not nearly as uncommon for them to say, yes, it is within my power to pardon anybody. However, there's no chance that he could do that without really raising a stink. Now, it could happen because whatever's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell, and to be really perfectly honest, I'm sorry, I'll get back to that thought, but we gave immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell, and then we prosecuted her and put her in prison. Now, we should have never given her immunity, but it already shows that everything having to do with all of this is so filthy and so foul. And thank you much, B-Lady. You have no idea how much that helps and how much it means to me. I really appreciate you. But I'm disappointed already that she's been moved to a camp. I literally tried to find any other examples, and I only found one. I talked about this on my show the other night, where a person convicted of these kind of crimes was sent to a camp, and it was after a long period of time. His name was Slim Pickens, no relation to the real Slim Pickens, just same name. But it is a rare thing. And I was watching somebody talking about this earlier, and they said, well, they call it club fed. There's still a fence around this. No, there isn't. When you go to a low, there aren't fences. I mean, when you go to camps, I shouldn't say lows. When you go to camps, there aren't fences around them. Her security levels should not have dropped, and that's kind of distressing. I'm beginning to think that Trump is PO'd after they kept trying to put him in prison. Yeah, I think he's fairly angry, and you know what? He should be, right? I don't like the guy, but that entire Russian thing is an absolute hoax, and it is a demonstrable absolute hoax. Anybody that researches this, they can research it that fast. All you got to do is you can Google. Now Google's a little left, but do a little research. Pick 5 or 6 different search engines, maybe a couple of AI models, right? To get different opinions. But look up Crossfire Hurricane. And I think that we're going to see Donald Trump probably go after some names that are going to be terrifying to most people. And they're going to say, he's going after his enemies. If your enemies commit felonies, right? Like destroying 30,000 emails, Hillary Clinton. If I did that, none of you would ever see me again. The amount of time that I would go to prison for would be terrifying. And she did it. And the way that we got the story to end, because weird things happened, right? The head of the FBI came out and said, we're not going to prosecute. The FBI doesn't say that. That's the Department of Justice that should say that. But the woman who was running the Department of Justice wanted to distance herself from this because she should have been prosecuted. She had an illegal server set up in her house. You know why she destroyed those emails? Because that was the Global Clinton Initiative. This was all of their pay for play. Look at the people that had access to Hillary Clinton and what percentage of them, while she was in office, what percentage of them donated to the Global Clinton Initiative. If I don't want to misquote this, so I'll say it's about 60%. I think it's 85%, but I will say around 60 because that will be good enough. But that's a disgusting program, right? And when you start to really back up, who put this together? The Clintons? Well, not exactly. Ghislaine Maxwell did all of the introductions and helped them get that off the ground. That's why Bill Clinton was on those jets as often as he was. He was flying to Africa more than he was going to that island. Doesn't mean there weren't girls on the flight. Who knows, right? Only they do. But he was going to Africa because he was selling these unbelievable speaking gigs. $10 million to go speak. I don't care who you are. Nobody gets paid $10 million to go speak. What happens if Diddy, if he cooperates and gives a few names? It's too late for that, Guru. There's something in the feds called, bear with me for 1 second. Rule 31. I think it's called Rule 31. And what Rule 31 is you can provide assistance on a case after you've already gone to prison, but you would have to be like, usually you provide something like, hey, there's an escape plan that's about to happen, or these 2 guys are planning on killing a cop. It's like those kind of things. It's usually not cooperation of, oh, I didn't give you anything on that case because I took it to court. Now I want to cut a deal and plead guilty after the fact. In order to cut a deal, you usually take a plea bargain. You don't take it all the way to the box and lose and then go, hey, can I get that plea bargain? The bargaining is over. To paraphrase Sam Kenney from Louisiana, Trump is rarely burdened with an unexpressed thought. He says a lot of things. Yeah, and you know what? He might pardon her. Honest to God, he might. She has a much better chance of getting a pardon than Diddy does. Right now, she's the most dangerous woman on planet Earth. However, I have not finished the book that was written by Virginia Giuffre, but that book is going to paint what's her name? His right-hand woman, the one we were just talking about, Ghislaine Maxwell, in a completely different light. I think that a lot of us see her as somebody that was like a secretary or somebody that was always riding with him when these things, and that's just not what was going on. she abused these women physically. When they didn't perform the way they were supposed to, she literally abused these women. She also was the one who procured them. And when you look at this in its totality, this is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. They had an absolute bulletproof method of how they went after these girls. And, they say she recruited at places like Mar-a-Lago. She wasn't recruiting people that hung out at Mar-a-Lago. She was recruiting from people that worked at places like that. And they were always from families that had trouble. They went after vulnerable girls to sell them a dream. It's one of the sleaziest things that has ever happened. Does she come across as Epstein's handler in that book? I'm super curious about that. No, she comes across as an unbelievable partner in that book. That's a great comment. End Times Prophecy Watchman says, people are losing any sense of convictions. Without convictions, any human has an opportunity to turn out to be a monster. And that's an absolute fact. I say it all the time. If you don't have a yardstick to measure yourself by, what makes a good man, right? Well, he's got to be tough. Well, that might help. He's got to be honest. That's a good thing, right? If you go through all those and then remove the yardstick from all of them, I knew tough guys in prison who picked on people a third of their size and taxed them for money. Doesn't make you a good man. I knew people that were honest to a fault. Like they'd walk up and go, I don't like you. I don't like the way you look. You're ugly. I mean, that's all honesty, right? It's not very nice because there's no yardstick to measure any of these things. Hardworking makes you a good man, right? But you're also supposed to spend time with your family and do all these things. Without that yardstick, you just go to work 20 hours a day and people go, he's a good man, works hard. I agree with you 100%. If there isn't a yardstick, it all goes to hell in a handbasket. No, she doesn't come across as a handler. She comes across as a sick, twisted human being who was a partner in this. That's how she comes across. She got the women, brought the girls. I'm sorry for saying women. She got the girls and brought them there. She told them what was going to happen. She got info after this stuff happened. And if they didn't do stuff right, she would literally hurt them. And she also, they weren't just servicing Jeffrey Epstein. They were servicing her. She is, according to this, just as foul and nasty as he was. So, no, Puff Daddy is definitely not getting out. I promise you. Certainly not next week. I promise if you're just getting here. The lunacy behind this is incredible. And it makes you wonder, honestly, I'm getting to the point where anytime something like this breaks in the news and trends, I think to myself, what are the odds they just wanted this to bury some other story? Like they wanted everybody looking over here because there was something here happening that they didn't want us to look at. By the way, just in case the woman comes back, yesterday somebody left a comment. It was articulate, well thought out comment. But it talked about Queen Elizabeth and the royal family going to Canada. The Kamloops or Kamplus, I can't think of the name of it, and I don't have my notes with me because I did the Johnny Scoville show. But allegedly, and this is a story that got a lot of traction, they went to Canada and they went out on a luncheon with 12 kids, and they never returned the kids. No one knows what happens to them in BC. Thank you. It didn't happen. I'm not trying to bum anybody out, but this doesn't take a long time to research. This rumor started by a guy that used to be a minister that did a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. And it started because they found a lot of unmarked graves out by this. And these are indigenous people in Canada. And they found a lot of unmarked graves. And it's pretty terrifying stuff. And out of that spun this narrative of the Queen going and taking these kids. However, if you cross-check the dates that she was there, she absolutely went to Canada when everybody says that this should have happened. But she was 2,000 miles away. And this is not this is not one of those things that, how do you say this nicely? Well, here's the thing. A rock star has a tough time walking around the planet without people taking pictures of them, writing down their itinerary, and it becomes a part of history. The Queen of England doesn't travel 2,000 miles without people knowing. There are photographers that travel with her. There was press that traveled with her. This was one of the most famous people on earth. And that entire trip is accounted for, every single bit of it, day by day. Like you can look up the pictures. So if you actually track this down to where the rumor started, she was 2,000 miles away at the closest from where these schools were. So, I mean, I'm not saying bad stuff didn't happen up there, but it sure as hell didn't happen with her going and taking kids out to lunch. And I'm not trying to bum anybody out, but I am finding these days that so many of the things that people say don't take a tremendous amount of time to chase down if you just start doing the research, especially when you apply a little critical thinking. Right? Could the Queen slip away with her entire entourage and go and take these people out of a school? not likely. And the people of the area, the indigenous people, think it's the most ridiculous thing. There's not even people from there going, yeah, this happened. Yeah, she had handlers, she had photographers. Like this is the queen, and it was a little different then, right? So every single part of that, there's the official biographer, right, is writing down what happened, and press is all there. Canada is currently taking back their citizens' guns. Well, certain ones to begin with. Canada folks are saying they might join the U.S. Well, God bless them, right? It was a pretty funny clip I saw where Trump was talking to the Prime Minister of Canada, and at a press conference he said, President of Canada by accident. And the guy leaned over afterwards and said, I appreciate you promoting me to president. And he goes, and Trump laughed really quick. He goes, could have been worse. I could have called you governor, right? Or said the senator, because they were going to turn Canada into the 51st state. They call it a buyback program. You can call it whatever you want. If you're handing guns in, here's the thing. Nobody likes to hear this, right? But the critical thinking thing. Yeah, this had a lot to do. That word right there will get me demonetized instantly. I mean, instantly. So it's not one that I'm going to say. However, that this had a lot to do with the rumors that were coming out of Diddy's basement. I'm not saying that this does not exist, but this has become a boogeyman of sorts. The amount of stories that are coming out about this, the particular stuff she's talking about starts with an A, ends with an E. I'm not being disrespectful at all. It may exist, but it is now existing, at least on the net in the QAnon range, where there are so many people that think that the stories got so out of control, right? The stories have gotten so out of control. It's terrifying. It really is. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but tunnels with Starbucks in them to service all of the people that are going down there to harvest that stuff. I mean, there have been some really crazy stories. What is the date of the appeal? I am not a lawyer, but I feel it will be denied by the judge. Good show, Tommy. Well, thank you, Rose. So the appeals don't kind of work like that in the feds, right? So normally, if he had just taken a deal, you're not allowed to ever do a appeal. I think the feds give you 14 days. It's either 14 days or 30 to appeal the sentence. Right? He's probably going to appeal the conviction. He's probably going to appeal the sentence. He's going to do everything he can because he's got, depending on who you believe, somewhere between $250 million, right? Let's call it between there and $400 million, depending on who you believe. But you know how many defenses he can put up with that much money? So he's paying a fortune to these people. They're making a killing. And I promise you, because I've dealt with this when I was going into the feds, they know he's not going to win, and they're still going to take that money. They're still going to write those appeals, but they'll say to him, yeah, I think we got a good chance on this. And here's why. Here's where they screwed up. And it's an emotional roller coaster. And I've said this on here before. If you go back for a resentencing, they can say to you, yeah, we didn't do this right. You need to get more time. That's legit. They absolutely have a right to give you, they can say the judge screwed up. What did he give you, 4 years? Let's make it 9. And it is not unheard of. It happens. So it's not just like rolling the dice, you know what I mean? Or taking a sitter. You're risking yourself, man. But I don't think there's a chance in hell. And here's why, right? So all the people who are speculating and, you know, they're going to turn it over because it's Diddy or overturn it because it's Diddy. Here's what it comes down to. There are 3 numbers that matter when you're getting sentenced by the feds, right? One is what your lawyer asks for. He looks at the federal sentencing guideline sheets and says, well, Your Honor, this doesn't rise to this. And you go in and argue it and you say because of his criminal history, because of this and that, I have him at a base level 18. And then the judge comes in and goes, no, we got him at a base level 22. But the people at probation are going to give a recommendation. So the defense team says, we want him to get 14 months, right? Time served. He does 2 more months. He's out the door, right? That's what the defense wants. The prosecution says, we want him to get 130 months or whatever it was. We wanted him to get over 10 years. Then probation has to come in after interviewing him in what's called a pre-sentence report. In the state, it would be called a pre-sentence investigation. The feds, they call it PSR. Most guys still say PSI because it's just sort of part of vernacular now. But a pre-sentence report, you're actually interviewing with somebody from the Department of Probation. More often than not, the person that's going to be your probation officer. But more often than not, you're not a rock star billionaire. So it may be different with Diddy, but most of the time your PSR is done by the guy that's going to be or gal that's going to be your probation officer. They recommended way above what Diddy got. So you have to, when you appeal, there has to be a discrepancy. Normally, that's the only way you're going to get a surefire way to get that overturned. If you went in and said, well, we asked for 34 months, the prosecution asked for 65, and we ended up with 120 months in spite of the fact that probation was right. They were all in the same class, and the judge went twice as high. If you're falling within the range of what probation says, and they give you a low of 48, right, and a high of 70 or 80 something, there's always enough room to play with. And the judge is usually going to drop it somewhere in that window, because then the odds of that getting overturned on appeal are nil. And their argument is going to be, well, the guy has no criminal points. This isn't a state where they'll just look at it and go, you're right, he doesn't have any criminal points. Maybe we should be better to him. They're going to go, didn't he throw that celebrity basketball thing where 12 people died? Right? Wasn't that him? Wasn't he involved in that nightclub shooting with J-Lo where somebody else went to prison and did his sentence? Right? Didn't that happen? These things have been in the zeitgeist, have been out here for a really long time. So the odds that he's just going to skate through an appeal process, slim to none. I think absolutely it gets overturned. I think it's more likely that he does more time. They don't like getting tied up in court for stupid things. And this is a stupid appeal. And I don't mean he has the right to, everybody in America has the right to appeal anything. But I don't think it's a good idea to appeal your sentence. Go ahead and appeal the verdict. And the reason he wants to do that is because if they say, all right, well, we get you a new trial, we get anything, he's hoping he's going to have a shot at getting back on the street. And I promise you, if he got back on the street, he'd find a way to disappear. I don't think he's got a doing time kind of disposition. Have you seen the last interview done with Ivana Trump before she died? She openly talks about enjoying Maxwell, and when she was enjoying Ghislaine Maxwell. And when she was in New York City, Ivana would go out and drive around with her looking for girls. You know what? I am not familiar with that interview. None of this would surprise me. It wouldn't. I always thought Ivana Trump was kind of cool. I hate to hear that. Would I be surprised? Probably not. The elites suck. They really do. However, this isn't just a disgusting human being, in my opinion. Go back and watch a couple of shows ago and listen to me talk about this stuff. But I think she's one of the probably best trained people on earth to do what she was doing. Find a job that this woman had. What she did was collect people, find things out about them, leverage stuff. And I think that she ended up finding a lot of pretty sick and twisted individuals. And if they weren't sick and twisted individuals, but they had maybe that much of that in her, I think between she and Epstein, a lot of people got sucked into something that they probably never would have done had it not been for Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't think these kind of operations are just trying to target pedophiles. I think these kind of operations target very rich people and say things like, you've had everything in life, probably haven't had this. Or you made all your money when you were 60. Boy, I bet you wish you could have gone back to what? High school? I think that these are psych ops, right? These are operations put on by people way bigger than just a couple of perverts. I believe wholeheartedly that this has the fingerprints all over it of intelligence agencies of at least 3 countries. That's my humble opinion, right? There are some seriously Orwellian pieces of legislation being floated in Canada. People won't be threatening to move there if any of it passes. It's the world is going Orwellian, isn't it? Do you think if he does get out, he goes into the Protection Act because of the names that come out? I don't think there's any chance in hell. So the sorry, folks, this is family. Kids, you know I love them. No, could he go into witness protection? I doubt it. I don't think a lot of names are gonna come out. You know, I don't think he's going to do anything along those lines. I just don't believe for a second that they're going to allow this guy to cut a deal after the fact. He isn't getting out on appeal, but he's definitely getting an appeal. They can appeal every aspect of this. That's completely legal. The only time you lose your ability to appeal is when you take a deal. If you take a plea bargain for 5 years and then you go, man, I wish I didn't do that. The judge says to you, you do realize that pleading guilty to this, you are giving up your right to appeal. So the only time you can, and there are some, you can appeal if you believe that, and if it's ineffective counsel, if your lawyer screwed up, you can always get a shot at it for that. They're not going to be able to say that his attorneys, he had a really good legal team. Hold on, do his and save his money and move on. Yeah, you know what? Like I said, he doesn't have a doing time kind of disposition, Guru. He says he's been in there 13 months. I believe he'll do another 30. I think that he'll probably, depending on what yard he hits at, if he ends up at Raybrook, there aren't as many programs. Some of the programs he's not going to be eligible for the time anyway. Like he probably thinks he's getting RDAP, and I don't think he'll be able to get RDAP with that crime. I just don't think he'll be able to get that. I don't think there's any chance. Sorry. Yeah, I don't think he'll end up doing that much time. Not another 30 months, but I think he'll probably do another 27, maybe 24, depending on what yard he ends up at. But I think he'll probably have to do another couple of years. They're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at this legal thing. He's going to just hemorrhage money, but I just don't see any grounds for this happening. Greetings. Good to see you. You know, these are interesting things, right? Yeah, I wonder about a lot of things these days. I really do. But I used to jump to some pretty heavy-duty conclusions. I'd like to see that interview in its entirety, just for my own edification. I'd like to see how it's edited. I've seen some weird stuff lately. You know, somebody sent me let me give you a perfect example right now. The Louvre was just robbed, right? Everybody knows this, yeah? The Louvre has just been robbed on Sunday, and they stole basically the crown jewels, but from Napoleon and his ladies. We're talking about $102 million worth of stones and gold, not historical value. See that? Sneeze and you didn't even hear it. $102 million worth of gold and stones. They're priceless because they belong to Napoleon. However, more often than not, you know, if they don't get these things fast, they're going to cut them up and take them apart, right? So 3 guys pull up. They have motorcycles. They also have a truck with a ladder on it. They cut with angle grinders through the window to get inside the Louvre, right? Second floor. They're inside 7 minutes. In that 7 minutes, they cut into another glass that goes over these jewels. They steal everything, and then they take off back out. 7 minutes in and out. They go down the ladder, and as they're taking off on the bike, allegedly, they drop the crown, which is one of the biggest moneymakers that they didn't get away with. And as a guy that stole some stuff in his life, this doesn't smell very good to me, especially when you dive deeper into the story and they say that the security guards saw this. It was like 9:30 in the morning. The security guards saw it, but they were able to hold them off with an angle iron. Sorry, what? Have you ever seen one of those? I mean, it's not going to, you're not cutting someone's throat with an angle iron. I mean, it's a very awkward tool to use as a weapon. So nobody in there had a piece. Nobody in there had a gun. How did he know, these guys know that where they were going to go was going to be safe from this kind of interaction? Who brings angle irons, right, into something that you probably ought to have a gun with you, unless you know that the people in there aren't going to put up much of a fight? To me, this stinks like an inside job in a big way, but I got no proof for any of that. And I could sit here and make a hell of an argument to all of you based on things that I've seen in my bad past. This looks to me like there were people involved in this. You know, they go, well, it's brazen. It's a little past brazen, man. It's 9:30 in the morning at the Louvre, right? And you're going to go in and steal the crown jewels. That's maybe a little bit more than bold to me. So I started digging into it. It is the third museum heist in France since September, I think. Very short period of time. 3 of them have been knocked off. They stole some beautiful, I think it's Chinese vases and plates and things that are also worth a hell of a lot of money. And then they also got into a natural history museum that had gold nuggets in it. About, I think they said about 480,000 euros worth. Now those will be melted down, right? That's gone. All of these things, these antiquities, it seems very odd to me. How in the name of God can you fence this? Even if you take it apart, right? You're going to run into a patriot of some kind that's going to take a look at these stones and say, yeah, it's going to take me a month or two to get you the money. So I started researching how often these people get caught, and they always get caught. They always get caught. People don't rob museums and disappear like the Thomas Crown affair or or the Pink Panther. Like that's a rarity. It really is. And I don't know how the camera systems is set up in France, but if it's like most more modern cities, then I would imagine they got these guys riding these bikes everywhere they went. I would imagine that they're probably rounding up the usual suspects. Here's another thing that most people probably don't think about. A guy doesn't go from pulling a couple of liquor stores to robbing the Louvre. If you're robbing the Louvre, there's a good chance that someone's giving you enough information to rob the Louvre. And more than likely, the crew that you put together, they're the kind of people that have done this stuff. Mark, I don't think he can get the program off the Mann Act. He's paying for sex, right? They're going to call that, it's basically the same thing as pandering. And while it isn't something you have to register, it's absolutely a sex crime. And his judgment and commitment from Rune Subramanian says that he has to take sex offender courses, right? Or those type of courses. So I'd be surprised if they would give him time off of that. Again, their biggest fear is you give the programs, right? There are no programs in Raybrook. Good. It's not going to bother me at all. I hope he ends up there, man. I really do. I hope he ends up there. But no, I don't think he'll get the time off of that. I remember watching one person after another. You know what, Janine? Any way you want to shake it, you're absolutely right. To commute a sentence is way different than a pardon. Either way, you put a sex offender on the street, right? A guy that most people watch beat up a woman. There's no chance in hell this guy gets out. I promise you. Not that way. It would be suicide for the political party that did it. There's no way he's going to do that. The MAGA people wouldn't be pleased if he pardoned Diddy. And Diddy talked crap about him. I mean, they may have been friends at one time, but Diddy trashed him really hard before the last election. Will you find out he's going? Yeah, we should be able to find out where he's going. But it's a matter of it will probably be. It's not going to show up in the computer until he's been transferred. So you can go to the Bureau of Prisons. You can go to www.bop.gov. You hear me? www.bop, as in Bureau of Prisons.gov. And you can put in Diddy's name. It's not hard to get his register number online, and it'll tell you, it will say where he is, MDC Brooklyn. If you check that every morning, one morning it's going to be gone. And when it's gone, you know he's getting transferred. But you will not see where that transfer goes until he actually shows up in the prison. Once he is inside there and has been counted, that is going to update, and that's so that they can protect that. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how that, but again, it would be really easy for me to come on here and just absolutely go nuts about it. But maybe it isn't an inside job. Maybe the security is just so weak there that, and I don't mean at the Louvre, I'm talking about all throughout the country. For 3 museums to get hit in this short a period of time, somebody is sensing weakness. Somebody is looking at this and going, not a lot of talent there. He already has his prison number. The feds work a little bit different than the state. So the day that Sean Combs got arrested, on at the top of the paper for his arrest paper, it would say the case number, probably CR, and then a bunch of numbers and a dash and a bunch more numbers. That tells you what year it was and what case number in that particular district. Below that, it's going to have his PAC number that he's going to use on the phone. And below that, it's got his reg number, his identification number. They give that to you before you're ever found guilty. That's how that works. The day he got arrested, you can look it up right now. We already know what his number will already be out there. And it's going to be 5 digits, a dash, and 3 digits. The 5 digits is your registered number. That's like the number for you. And the 3 digits after the dash, that's significant as to where you got busted, right? So, and I don't remember a lot of them off the top of my head. I remember, oh, you know what? Yeah, 801, it's 801, I think was Utah, if I'm not mistaken. 148 is Nevada. 158, I don't remember what 158 is, but I knew it was one off from us. I think at one time I might have known where it is. But every single state has its own code, and some states have multiple codes because of the size of them, depending on where you got busted. Can he hire bodyguards? Yeah, in theory he can, right? In theory, he could pay money to people to try to kill him. I mean, to try to keep him from getting killed. Sorry, I was reading 2 sentences at the same time. He could definitely hire people to try to protect him. It's a slippery slope. It's also hard to get the money to them. You know, we heard in the case that he was using other people's PAC numbers. If you get on your phone and say, I want you to send money to this guy, they're going to come down and get you in minutes. They monitor every call. And those kind of phrases, I need you to put money on this guy's books. You can't do that. Mark Garagos or whoever, you know, was saying it's not a big deal. They do it all the time. It's a huge deal. It's a 300 series shot, go to the hole, lose good time, lose all kinds of stuff. It's a big deal in most places. Now, at the badass, like killer USPs, they don't care. Because if they don't let you do stuff like that, then there are going to be stabbings all over the yard because the guys need to pay their drug debts and the guy needs to pay their gambling debts. USPs run as a completely different animal than the rest of the BOP. They're like, guys go down to check in and they'll say to them, no, man, get out there and pay your bills. I'm not putting you in the shoe and protecting you because you didn't pay your bills. Get out there and pay your bills. But he's not going to be at that custody level. Puff Daddy made a whole lot of money off a song he wrote about a dead man with a dead man's wife. If Biggie could tell us who killed, it would be Puff Daddy. I think you're right. But make no mistake, that case is moving forward too. The Keefe D case is moving forward too. And boy, there was a lot of talk. I can't back any of it up. You know why? Because I'm working for the family. That was funny as hell. I can't prove that. But Keefe D says he had a big check, right? Allegedly. But you know what? When you're looking at a long sentence for killing somebody, man, if you could turn someone else in for it, don't do time, drop a dime, right? Don't go to the pen. Send a friend. Yeah, you know, looking back, some of the songs, isn't Diddy right now he's at MDC Brooklyn to the best of my knowledge. You go to the shoe, you lose phone privileges, and you don't go to the store. That's right. And the second time, they get really, really angry at you. Second time, you're definitely losing good time. Definitely. 300 series shot stack. So the first one you don't lose good time for, but if you get another one, and that would be any 300 series shot. Yeah, cook it. Sorry. Yeah, it's not a minor infraction. I don't know who told anybody that. Isn't Diddy in the Tupac case? We're going to find out. A whole lot of allegedly surrounding all of this, right? We don't know because during the last feeding frenzy, there were so many things said about this guy. And allow me to do a disclaimer here. I'm not a fan of P. Diddy. It comes as a shocker to you. But we should at least do a little research and maybe not believe every single thing that people says, because some of the stuff that people say is absolutely bizarre and it just doesn't make sense. And you can't, I want to be able to back stuff up like that. That actually is getting to the point where that means something to me. I'll be a much happier person if the stuff that I tell you guys, I don't have to come back at a later date and go, sorry about that one, kind of got wrapped up in it. And that's what happened with Diddy. You go on a couple of shows and you go on some panels and you start talking to some people and then you guys sort of network and you call each other and you say, hey, did you hear this? And people, I don't know any of his songs either. How's that? Not one. If I had to tell you the name of one Diddy song for my freedom, I would probably go to The Joint. I don't know one Diddy song. Oh, wait a sec. Maybe I do. What was the tribute one? Did he sing on that? Every Breath You Take or one of those? I'm missing you. Give it a break, Katie. She runs to the door when Johnny walks out. He's going to buy something at the Supermaxi, but every time he goes, she goes to the door like a dog. Yeah, I don't think I don't know. He wasn't my generation. I'm older than that, but he's if you start and to finish that question, if you end up paying somebody, you're going to end up trying to pay everybody. And what I mean by that is, look, if you're a guy that's 6'6" or you're 6'4" and you're 280 pounds, and you find out that Diddy's paying 6 dudes in there for something, you're going to go up and go, you can start paying me too. And I'm telling you, that can take off. And then he's got to try to figure out how to get all of that money into inmates. And that is going to be the problem. This is a really interesting question, man. I'll be missing you. Thank you. That's what it is. I wonder if we'll still be talking about him in 10 years from now, or if it will be Diddy who. Well, you know what? If I say R. Kelly, would you say R. Kelly who? Right? R. Kelly, he just lost a couple more appeals. You know, he's still throwing the book at him, trying to figure out a way to get out. He had a 30-year sentence. He's still got a long way to go, and he's not having a good time in there. He's filed absolutely everything. The compassionate release. Diddy's people are going to be doing that too. Believe it or not, they're going to have the huevos. And this is why judges start getting angry and breaking off more time. They honestly could take an appeal and give him more time. And the hubris in it. So we watched you beat up a woman, right? Kick her in the head, throw a vase at her, like just really sick, depraved stuff. And you're saying, this is too hard for me. I can't do this time. Guess what? Nobody cares. I mean, honestly, nobody. A month before the midterm Manhattan killing, Mangione was in Thailand, where he allegedly got into a violent altercation involving several transgender performers in a Bangkok's nightlife district. Really? I had not heard that. I didn't like Thailand. I shouldn't say that. I liked Thailand, but there's a creepy factor there that's hard to deal with. Did Diddy dance and sing in the American gangster music videos or music scene? I don't know the answer to that. Ken, does anyone else know the answer to that? Honestly, and it's usually weird when R. Kelly's the one who doesn't know when to shut his mouth. There's a lot of truth to that. But say what you will, R. Kelly's music wasn't bad. He was way more talented than Diddy. Like, the guy could sing. Not a huge fan of R. Kelly, but as far as his singing goes, he was far more talented an artist, in my opinion, than Diddy. But I don't understand the Diddy music. I guess there are people that dig him, but it's just not really my thing. Yeah, here's the thing about Thailand. So, and by way of full disclosure, I went there with my old boss. And it was a long time ago. It was a really long time ago. But yeah, there's a sex trade in that. Like Bangkok, the sex trade in that city is so in your face that you end up wanting to hurt a lot of people. Like, you walk around going, "Oh my God, is that person with that person?" Because you'll see guys walking down the street with women that don't look old enough, right, to be walking down the street with them, and it's in your face. It's just disgusting. It's not any better if it's not in your face, but when it's in your face, you want to kill everybody you see. And yeah, I didn't like it much. I was going over there as part of a boot camp. We were training people, and one of the perks of this boot camp was that they were going to be doing it in Thailand. I had a rugged time. I really didn't like it. Isn't Diddy more of a producer? Yeah, he is, and a manager, but he's not going to be producing or managing when he gets out. That is actually part of his terms of release. He cannot be in a management position over anybody. The only rapper I really like in any sense of like is Eminem, but I'm the wrong generation for rap. He's fairly creative. My son listened to a lot of Eminem, and he's another one of those artists that I'll say, yeah, I never really listened to him, but songs will come on and I sing along. But it's, if you have kids, you know what that's like. Your kids listen to music and it ends up sort of absorbing into you. Jared from Subway loved Thailand. Well, there's that. That's probably everything you need to know right there. It's definitely not my spot, and I think that my understanding is that they've done an awful lot to try to clean it up. Right? They're trying to work on that. Tons of rappers are on ops for the government. I'll tell you something. One of you sent me a documentary about it was called I believe it's called I Shot Kennedy, I think is what it was called. as in JFK, not RFK. And this is there's a guy that says that the mob hired him. He was the second shooter, blah, blah, blah. And critical thinking stuff again. But, I watched it and I can't remember who sent it to me, but I appreciate it. I did watch it. The smell test kind of stuff. He was working for the Italian mob and he went and did a hit. He is not Italian. He said that Lee Harvey Oswald was the other shooter. They killed Lee Harvey Oswald, right? If his story is real. But they didn't kill him, which I find really odd because the old school Italian gangsters didn't trust a lot of people that weren't Italian. I mean, people could work for them, but if they were tied to something that big that could have gone back on them, I don't think this guy'd still be breathing. However, it was an interesting watch. And if it were true, we're certainly never going to hear it. They're going to bury it. Sadly, the world we live in, I don't think I can believe anything anymore. It's a bummer. It really is. It's an absolute bummer for me. You seen him at the Home Depot. Really? What was he buying? Huh? Was he in toilets? Was he over in that section? Plumbing? Where was he at? You know what? I've spent a lot of time at Home Depot, but not anymore. Our hardware store, I can't even remember what it's called anymore, but it's a hardware store that sells absolutely everything. If you took Home Depot and put it together with Walmart and then put a grocery store in there and a motorcycle shop and a furniture store, there's your it's all in one spot. A lot of the Pacific Rim is like that. I was going to adopt a child and I saw so many kids in cages. I was told I could buy one for $5,000 or adopt one for 50. Good Lord, lost again. Good Lord. What a terrifying thing to hear. Something has to happen really quickly. The mob and the government leave no loose ends. I tend to believe that. I really do. I tend to believe that. The money to be paid when he gets to Wally World. Nice. Hold on one second. Got to blow my schnozzle, people. It's in season. I swore I would never be that person. Listening to the oldie station, but somewhere around 2005, top 40 lost me. You know what's really sad? I was listening to the oldie stations even when I was a kid. Like when I was 16, I didn't listen to any music. Guns N' Roses, I listened to in high school. But again, like I don't remember liking any band in high school. But now I listen to all of those songs that were top 40 when I was in high school. I know the words to everything. I don't remember listening to it. It must have just been radio background, but I know the lyrics to everything. I love all those songs. I quit trying to adopt after I couldn't take it and I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, I mean, the frustration of, I think a lot of people feel this way. Virginia Giuffre's book is going to tear you up. It's going to tear you up. We live in a really ugly world, right? We live in a really ugly world. Thank you. Prayers for those babies. Get some ones up there. That's a beautiful comment. We live in a really ugly world right now. And some of the things that are done in the name of government, some of the things that are done in the name of God, and some of the things that are just done in the name of fame and privilege are rocking the planet. And they're going to pump us with so much disinformation in the next 2 years. If you're not on your game, people, if you don't start honestly looking at every single thing that people say and go, yeah, you know what, I'm just not going to take that at face value. And then go and start to research stuff because well, you know what? I don't know if you've seen, you probably have seen the anti-Trump rally. If that anti-Trump rally was big, well, then why did MSNBC show us a clip of a gathering that took place years before, right? That's dishonesty at a level that we're supposed to be able to trust the news at some level, right? Like, well, not enough people showed up at this King's protest. So we'll just show them a picture of the last time there were a crap load of people here. That's the planet we're living in. So when people send me stuff and go, well, I saw, yeah, research it, right? Research it. I'm not a Diddy fan. I just don't believe half of the stuff that gets said about him. I think he should spend the rest of his life in prison for the stuff that I do believe about him. That seems easy to prove, right? Yeah, you can get her book on Amazon. You can get her book anywhere. It's at this point, this is catching fire. Giuffre's book is. This is going to do a lot of damage to the royal family in a big way, but it's also going to get maybe the 20% of America that's not paying attention to the Epstein saga. Maybe they'll join the fight. As I said on last night's show, I'm not kidding. 4 out of 5. They say 4 out of 5 Americans, 80% are following the Epstein saga. When can that percentage of Americans agree on anything, right? If you said, man, money's good, right? At least half of Americans would be like, nah, I hate money. You know what I mean? Sex, nah, I don't like it. 80% of Americans agreeing on anything, then we need to get these files. And you know what? I think they're going to come out. I really do. I think they're going to come out. I like one of your theories, the person that reached out to me and said, this could be leverage, right? This could be, if let's just suspend disbelief for a second and say, if you were the president and you had more attempts on your life than the last 15 presidents combined, right? 6 presidents combined anyway, wouldn't you start going, if this by some chance, if this by some chance had to do with an agency, screw it. If you thought it was the CIA and you had dirt in the files on the CIA and on the Mossad, maybe he thinks he's keeping himself alive with that dirt. I don't know what the hell Trump's thinking, and I'm angry about it. But critical thinking, I got to try to come up with why I think my first theory I think is still pretty solid. He's not trying to destroy or create even more anti-Semitism for the people of Israel, because if this has got the Mossad's fingerprints all over it, then releasing it, and especially if it's got our fingerprints on it too. Could our country take right now finding out that the Central Intelligence Agency has been doing this for that long and that presidents knew about it, right? Maybe they think it will destroy our republic. And you know what? It probably would, but maybe it needs to get rebuilt, right? Maybe we need to figure something out, because when it is okay to sacrifice one child to sex trade for your country, you've lost your way. But if it's 2000, you lost your way a long ass time ago. And, you're not a shining city on the hill. You're evil. I don't know what happened with Epstein. Nor does anybody else. The people that say to me, no, I know exactly what's happening. I told you my theory, right? This guy absolutely, in my opinion, this guy absolutely was working for multiple intelligence agencies. But I think the big one was the Mossad. And I think that this was an operation, and I think Ghislaine Maxwell was running it. And you're going to get a different feeling. Before, I had a very different opinion of Ghislaine Maxwell. I thought she was a secretary, and she was not a secretary. She was a sleazy child molester, just like the guy, except she seemed to be violent to some of these women. And she went out and procured them. She's just, to me, this is a handler. This isn't a girlfriend. This is just a sick human being who's been trained to be a sick human being, right? When someone says you're a socialite and your dad is a spy, the hell kind of job is socialite? So you just go around the world, you go to all of these parties, you make as many friends as you can, because you're going to use those at a later date, right? You're going to use these at a later date. Like when you help set up the Clinton Global Initiative, and in the process, you got to spend a lot of time with Bill Clinton, then you introduce him to a couple of 16-year-olds, right? And within a short period of time, there's a painting hanging in Epstein's house of Bill Clinton in a dress. And by the way, if you think I'm picking on Democrats, I guarantee you there's a crap load of Republicans in there too. You wouldn't just target one party. That would be stupid, right? You also wouldn't just target the parties. You would target people in the arts. You'd target people in Hollywood. You'd go after Elon Musk, and people are all bent out of shape. He didn't go to the island. Written in the guy's book, if you actually research what happened, written in the book, he wrote Elon Musk coming to the island on such and such a date. He was questioning whether or not it would happen. Elon Musk never went there. It never happened. But this guy invited everybody. He would pay people to go down there. Stephen Hawkins, right? Some deep physicists and scientists. He was a patron of the arts. They collected people. You understand? Their job was to collect people. And if it was just politicians, you'd go, okay, man, I can see them trying to. Why do you collect people that aren't politicians? Why do you go after actors? Why do you go after industrialists? Why do you go after doctors? Does this make any sense? If you're trying to use these people in the media, say everybody hates you and they're starting to rally behind the Palestinians, it's nice to have dirt on people that can come out and go, let me tell you why that's wrong, who are famous. because we live in a world where facts and shit like that doesn't matter much anymore, right? If you can get me a good famous person to say, here's how it really is, chances are they're going to believe him anyway, right? Sad, but it's the truth. Late night comedians. There are people all over the U.S. that only get their news from late night comedians. Critical thinking went a while ago on both sides of the aisle. Sadly, that's the truth, right? Yeah, I'm glad Elon didn't go. You know what I mean? But a lot of the people that went, I don't think were going there to bang kids, but they were getting paid or whatever. The problem becomes, and this is something that Virginia Giuffre says in her book. Even if you weren't doing that, you were seeing that. There were young girls walking around at all times. Look, we're an hour into this, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but we're all big kids here, right? He would sit around and talk about, they would talk about physics, or they would talk about space, or whatever he had brought these experts in. And they said he was incredibly shallow. He wasn't well-versed in any of this stuff. It wasn't like he was into physics. They said he would ask a question or two and it would start to go off in different directions and not make sense. And then he would say something like, what does any of this have to do with pussy? Well, if this was a standard answer, I would imagine that most of the people there came to realize this wasn't just a guy that was trying to. That's a very odd thing to say around a bunch of physicists. Most said he acted like a jackass most of the time. But there are pictures on the wall that if you saw, you would know this guy was a freak. And I'm not just talking about the one in New York, the picture of Donald Trump, but this guy was a creep. There were massage tables in rooms all over the place. This didn't smell right. Anybody with a brain would walk in and go, hey, this isn't cool. So miss me with this. Alan Dershowitz says, well, I'm there on business. I was his lawyer. Yeah, you walked into a brothel, right? By everybody's account, you walked into an underage brothel. I'm not trying to be a dick, right? But this is... Virginia Giuffre says this. A lot of people said this. When you walked in, the soap was in the shape of penises. What's up? That's fairly normal, right? You got some dick soap at your house? I'm a supporter of Israel. It doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. I'm a supporter of Christians, and there's a lot of them that do things that isn't biblical. There's blood. There's bad people everywhere. Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to conflate the Jews and the Mossad, just like I don't want to conflate Americans and the government. Right? Or the CIA. The CIA is not a representation of the people of America, no more than the Mossad is a representation of the people of Israel. And I think the problem on planet Earth right now isn't the people of any country, right? Does anybody believe that the people of, if it wasn't for those damn people in Lithuania, that's not the problem. Governments, and worse than that, the organizations inside governments that can run unbridled and do whatever the hell they want and trample all over human beings. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. And, I got an email from somebody that said, man, you're just a conspiracy theorist. MK Ultra is not a conspiracy theory. It's been proven. We know who shredded the documents. All of this is public record. There's no way to say MK Ultra didn't happen. Okay, so if we just took that one and said, we know of officially 149 victims that we gave LSD to and tried to turn them into people that we could control, virtual Manchurian candidates, that we could auto driving, like we could control where they go and what they do. We did this to 149 people, and we didn't say, would you like to be in a study? We'll give you $600 a month to do this, this, and this. No, none of them knew they were getting doped up. They went into the hospital for morning sickness, or they went into the hospital for postpartum depression, or they were in an accident, or whatever. Okay, that happened. That happened in a lot of our lifetimes. This is terrifying. And that's one example. Pearl Harbor, right? I say this all the time here, but we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. And I get needing to get into World War II. We thought Hitler was going to take over the entire planet. The American people weren't stoked about going to war. And if we just let this attack happen, then we're not going into war. We're going to hit them back. But you got to sacrifice 3,000 boys and girls to do that. That's a problem, right? Killing young men and women to do that. That's a problem. Even if only 25% of it is true, it's way too much. Well, you know what? Lost again? We settled lawsuits with these people. These people got paid off. The government doesn't pay off people for programs that didn't exist. By the way, Canadians were also being targeted because the Central Intelligence Agency apparently had some of their people in Canada, so that we could screw up people in other countries, not just our own. And they settled with a woman up there who was pregnant, and they did huge amounts of LSD they put into this woman, trying to turn her into a weirdo. And her baby was born. He was just challenged. He wasn't handicapped in the true sense of the word, but he was challenged. He never developed into what he should have. And we paid her off, but not him. They said the cash was only for victims. So mom, I guess, was a victim, but the kid wasn't. This stuff is easy to look up. I'm not making any of this up. MK Ultra is an absolute fact. Now, there's a lot of other things that people talk about that you can't prove and that it might be true, right? But that one we know. Pearl Harbor, we know. Those two things are true. That's a hell of an indication. Then the Iran-Contra affair, we no longer can debate this, right? This is no longer open to debate. So not only did we do it, but we covered it the hell up. Bill Barr covered it up. And you know who was moving all the money? Jeffrey Epstein, right? His name didn't appear back then, did it? But you can look it up. It's easy as hell to look up. It is now verifiable fact that he was working for Adnan Khashoggi, who was the arms dealer that was brokering all the stuff for Iran-Contra. And when we did the investigation, the guy that was laundering and moving the money, he wasn't worth arresting or talking about. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, MK Ultra was ultra sick. I think you should be that person to listen to oldies. You'll thank me later. It's just a better thing. You know what? I should almost, just on general principle, end this now. And I'll tell you why. Check this out real quick. Ready? Look at that. That is a cat not in a basket. And so is that. I got two of them. Just, you talk about lazy, man. I got two cats a mere 4 feet from work, and neither of them will get in the basket. Kind of pathetic what the world has come to around here. All right, people, listen. We're going to keep up with this. If you got here late, Diddy ain't getting out, right? And again, I will say this one more time. I think it was a trial balloon. I think this is one of the things that very often happens with really high-paid lawyers. What you do is you float that, and you see what happens. You see if people go, yeah, if you let Diddy out, we're going to lose our mind. It's a great way to take the temperature of the country. That way, if you do approach the president, you can say, look, we already leaked this and no one said anything. Yes, there's a lot of evidence that the deep state has been looking for unknowing recruits since the Cold War. Despicable stuff. It's absolutely horrible stuff. And we did it on other people too. Whitey Bulger. And read the book Chaos, man. I think we did it with Charles Manson. None of the Manson story makes any sense. I'm sorry it doesn't. If you read Chaos, is a great read. You'll thank me later. I promise you, you'll thank me later. It is a wonderful book. It took a guy 20 years to research, and he and his co-author, this has, the sources are named. This is not one of those books where you go, wow, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. Everything is footnoted. Everything is, all of the research is in there. It's absolutely amazing. The Manson story is sick. Manson's a bad dude, and he definitely was involved with a lot of what happened there. But the narrative that we got in there about Helter Skelter and all of that is just absolute BS. And Vincent Bugliosi, the guy that was prosecuting him, honestly, might have been a worse guy than Manson. It's a little frightening to me. But we'll do that on another day. I got to go and take care of these kitties because obviously they're not going to do anything for me. Yeah. Chaos is a great book, says Sandy Wayne. And you know what? I'm telling you, nobody that reads this book is going to go, Tommy, I can't believe you wasted my time. Chaos is a fascinating read, and it's not a conspiracy theorist guy. You don't spend 20 years researching something and having every bit of the research in there for people to look up. He killed it. Killed it. Yeah, it's Chaos. It's a hell of a book, man. You will look at the Manson story a whole lot different. I will, you know what? I'll do a show on Helter Skelter versus Chaos. You guys want me to do that? Because I read both Helter Skelter and Chaos. It would absolutely be worth talking about. It's fascinating. I mean, put the Beatles through that. I mean, oh man, yeah, I will happily do that. Those are two subjects I can have a lot of fun talking about. We will work that in the next couple of days. That would be an interesting one, unless by some chance the guys in the Louvre get busted, the royal family collapses over the Virginia Gouffre book, or Trump pardons Diddy. One of those definitely ain't happening. The other two, we'll see. All right, between now and the next time I see you, thank you so much to all of you that left comments. I said, you know what? They're not going to push this video. I got about 1,000 views, but the engagement on that thing is about 23%, which is so much higher than YouTube average. It's terrifying. We'll force the algorithm to either start pushing us or simply really look like they're going out of their way not to. And you know what? I didn't say rape, murder, any of that stuff tonight. We should be in good shape. All righty, people. I am Tommy. I will see you on the next one. God bless and good night. And thank you once again, B-Lady. Made my day. Appreciate you. And I will see all of you on the next one. I'm Tommy. Have a good night.